thanks again for everybody for joining us. This presentation, actually, a good buddy of mine who's on tonight, Jim Warnock, and I have had multiple conversations over the past couple months about starting to put some workshops together for youth coaches and all these things that go into coaching youths, especially. I think by the high school level, people have a pretty good grasp of what's involved, but at the youth level, especially, people sign up to coach thinking it's going to be fun and it's all going to be beautiful, sunshine, rainbows. And then it's a parent issue. It's an issue with field space. It's this issue. It's that issue. It's finding coaches. And before you know it, you got yourself into something that there's all these challenges that you're facing that you didn't really expect. So credit to Jim for some great conversations. And excited to move forward with our little plan of action. But tonight we're going to focus on culture building in sport or through sport. This is not designed to be an end all be all, like here's the complete playbook, action by action of building a positive culture, because so much of it is based on the coach, the program, the athletes, the stakeholders, and there's not really a one size fits all playbook. But my hope tonight is to introduce some strategies and tactics that can be helpful for you and your program, whether it's this spring season or over the summer or the fall season when we get going. So away we go. Before we get into it, and some people are very familiar, some people not so much, but just wanted to give an introduction to who we are. We are Empower Leadership. We're under the brand of Empower Adventures, which was founded in 2009 here in Middletown. A good buddy of mine, Joe Doring, started the company, hired me away from teaching back in February of 2009. We started with an adventure facility here in town in Middletown. We opened our second facility in Northern Virginia in 2016, and our third facility in Tampa area, Florida in 2016. And at the end of 2019, we moved from our original property in Middletown, and we now operate out of the Empower Adventure Park at Nomads, South Windsor. So we have these adventure park facilities. Over the first 3 years, recreational leisure business was really what drove us in Middletown. And we saw a shift, 4 years into our business, and basically from like 2012 to 2017, 18, a major increase in demand for programming focused on leadership development and team building, team development. And at the end of 2019, we shifted our original business model to just Empower Leadership from Empower Leadership Sports and Adventure Center. And Empower Leadership focuses exclusively on workshops, programs, trainings, focused on leadership and team skill development. It's been, pleasure working with Joe over the years. Get to interact with a lot of great people, a lot of great athletic programs, as well as youth groups, etc. Joe and I would consider ourselves a little bit unique. When I first got into the outdoor adventure ropes course scenario, it was a lot of fun, recreational play, maybe not so much with a purpose. And what Joe and I have tried to do over the years is, he comes from an Army military background. He left as a captain in the United States Army. We both have a pretty extensive, very retired now, obviously, but pretty extensive background in athletics, from, playing as an athlete and coaching. And we realized, when comparison to a lot of the outdoor rec people that I kind of started to cut my teeth on with this type of stuff, it was a very euphoric environment. And what I mean by that is, everybody's supposed to get along and be lovey-dovey, and it's supposed to just all work out. And as we all know, everybody on this call tonight, life doesn't necessarily work that way. You're going to try out for a team, you're going to get cut. You're going to make a team and maybe not play it all and have to deal with that adversity. So what we've tried to do over the course of our, since 2009 being in business, is really find alignment between the workshop or the experience that we're offering to a group and our best guess as to what that group is going to go through on a daily basis, over the course of an athletic season, per se, in this instance. So our goal for Empower Leadership our mission is to inspire 1 million individuals to become leaders. And we feel workshops like this will help us achieve that goal. And our goal is to hit that by 2030. And our hope is that you're all able to take some stuff from this workshop tonight, apply it to your athletic programs, and join us on that journey, that mission to inspire 1 million people to lead. All right. So before we get into the nuts and bolts, what is team culture, right? So I found a blog article. What the hell is team culture? Part of my language is why is it so important? But I'm not going to read it word for word, but team culture, values, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors, how people work together, how people treat each other to achieve a shared goal. And as the author states here, it's a difficult concept to grasp. And I agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with her reasonings. It's unspoken and unwritten, because I think a lot of leaders, whether it's in athletics or in business, take the time to write this type of stuff down. Where I see the challenge is that values, how the heck do you measure it? Beliefs, how the heck do you measure it? Right? So a lot of this stuff is abstract, obscure, ambiguous. It's not easy to measure. And when it's not easy to measure, it becomes hard to actually implement. So, and I love this quote here by Belichick. Doesn't necessarily tie exactly to culture, but solid character comes from solid program culture. So talent sets the floor, character sets the ceiling. So this is going to be the focus of the event: the values, beliefs, attitudes, behaviors, how people interact, how people work together. And our goal is to try to get it to a point where it's measurable, right? Something that your young athletes who are trying to figure things out, how to be a good teammate, how to be a good team member, can, make it a little bit more, hey, yes, I did this, or no, I didn't. And if I didn't, how can I get better next rep? So the approach we're going to take tonight is a big to small approach. All right. The big to small is goals, strategies, and tactics. All right. So goals obviously are the big picture items, your mission, your coaching philosophy, right? Which is comprised of your program's mission, your program's vision, your personal why, right? Why you coach, why you get involved with what you're doing. Like I said, you combine those together. That makes up your coaching philosophy. The next layer, it gets a little smaller, are your strategies. Call these, success actions or your plan of attack items. So essentially your strategies take your very global, the goals, the mission, the vision, the why, and it starts to narrow that down into some sort of plan of attack or game plan to bring your philosophy. And when I say philosophy, that encompasses mission, vision, and why. But the goal is to bring your philosophy to fruition, to life. And we refer to those as your guiding principles. The final item, and this is when we get into the actionable, the measurables, tactics. All right. So the tactics are our action items. Having sound tactics allow us to take the ambiguous and make it more concrete. It allows us to create measurable daily success actions, right? So if we set a goal, if we set some sort of target that we're trying to achieve, if we do these things on a daily basis, we have the best chance to achieve said goal. It doesn't guarantee it, but it gives us the best opportunity to do it. And most importantly, when you have these success actions or these action items that are measurable, that are clearly communicated, you're setting yourself up for opportunities to hold yourself and hold all of the program stakeholders accountable to those standards. Program stakeholders, your coaches, your assistant coaches, your athletes, their parent guardians, any community members that are vested in the program. If your athletic program is tied to a school system or a private school, it would be the athletic department, the administration in the school. So when I say stakeholders, that's all I'm referring to there. So this is the approach that we're going to go through tonight. We're going big to small, ambiguous to more concrete, with hopes, again, that you could take some of this stuff and bring it back to your program with you. Starting with goals right here. And I think when we look at goals, and again, an article I read recently talked about, in business, they talk about like the 30,000 foot view, the airplane view, when you really can't necessarily see what's going on below you. I read an article recently which modified that down to the 1,000 foot view and compared it to like being in a helicopter. So the goals provide that. The goals provide that greater vision, but not from that 30,000 foot view where you really can't see what's going on. The 1,000 foot view, you're able to kind of take the pulse, take the temperature of what's happening. So the first question I'll pose this to the group, and I'll open up the floor to discuss it. But how do you define success in your program? Right? In the four major categories that I thought of: wins and losses, skill development that's related specifically to the sport, skill development that's not sport specific. So that's when you get into some of the leadership skill development, the team skill development, and then overall globally, teaching and youth development. So before you can start to build out your philosophy, right, your mission, your program vision, you need to understand, how do you define success in your program, and really rate those four items. And you might add more to the list, but rate those four items based on how valuable and important they are to you and to your program. Another quote here, and I'm going to have everybody just jump on mute here for a minute, just so we can avoid the background noise for everybody. The quote here that I threw in there, and I love it. It's from Vince Lombardi, so it's an old school classic. But winning isn't everything, but striving to win is. And everybody involved in sport knows that anytime you step on the track, the field, the pitch, the ice, the court, whatever it might be, the result is never a guarantee. What athletic programs can guarantee and can control is their process. So I'm a firm believer in the value of the process versus the product. If you can focus on being your darn in the process, you're going to put forth the best product that your talents and God-given abilities allow you to do. But a firm believer that that doesn't mean we should not care about, wins and losses. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about, oh, we showed up and we had fun, right? There should be a little bit of a competitive edge to it because it is sport. And I believe that when you can build a program and coach your athletes and help your athletes learn about the importance of striving to win and not worrying about, well, what if we lose? What if we get embarrassed? But strive to win, strive to be the best that you could be in the moment. It's going to bring out the best in your athletes and any of your program stakeholders. The first element of my mind is of forming your program goals. Again, the big picture view, the 1,000 foot view, is coaches need to identify and evaluate their personal reasons for actually coaching. All right. What do you hope to give from your experience as a coach of a group of athletes? And what do you hope to receive? All right. So taking some time to really dive deep into it. Is it a financial thing only? And you don't really care. You just want to collect the check. Is it something where you're so focused on youth development where you don't really care about wins and losses, or young adult development? So before a coach can go ahead and create their philosophy and really attack this goal portion of building culture, they need to understand why they're doing what they're doing, what they hope to give, what they hope to receive. Once you have a greater understanding of what it is that you want to get out of coaching, all right, you're going to develop your program's mission. All right. And in developing your mission, you need to define clearly, how are you going to determine if your program is a success or not? Is it going to be exclusively wins and losses? Is it going to be exclusively just, non-sport specific development, or is it going to be some sort of combination of those 4 elements that are listed at the top of the slide? You need to develop your mission by stating your programming objectives. At the end of 4 years in our program, or 2 years in our summer program, whatever it might be, my hope is that our athletes that participated in our program leave with X, Y, and Z. And then last but not least, and we're going to get into this a little bit further on the next slide, or 2 slides from now, is once you've defined your success outcomes and your objectives, then it's time to start to think about the strategies and the tactics that will allow you to achieve those objectives. The third element, and again, I think this is something that is forgotten often, defining your vision. So the vision in my eyes is when a coach looks at, hey, I have an athlete for 4 years in my program, or however many years your program is. How is participating in my program going to impact the athletes in the long run, in the long term, right? I'm sure everybody on this Zoom right now can remember a youth or a high school coach that had some sort of positive or negative impact on them to this day. I know I am 40 years old. I'm far removed from playing competitive sport. But I do vividly remember lessons from coaches that I had in middle school, coaches that I had in high school, and at the college level that are part of my daily routine today. And I didn't know it then. But I looking back, I know now those coaches that I can think of, and those instances that I can think of, were programs that had a very sound culture. And then the simple equation, your coaching philosophy is going to be a combination of the first element, why do you do it? The second element, your mission, your outcomes, your objectives, and then your strategies. And then the third element, hey, I feel comfortable my athletes, when they're done with this program, are going to be X, Y, and Z. Mike Cunningham, he's a wrestling coach here in town at Xavier High School. He's one of the best coaches I've crossed paths with over the years. I was speaking with him and I said, hey, Mike, if I were to hire a Xavier wrestler alum, what would I be getting? And you'd get an employee who shows up early, doesn't make excuses. When they fall short, they'll own it and they'll try their best to make it better. And to me, that's a coach with a vision. That's a coach that's utilizing his program to have an impact far beyond the 4 years an athlete is in his program. So moving on to the next layer. So we just did the 10,000 or the 1,000-foot view. We're going to narrow it down a little bit with our strategies, which I refer to as our guiding principles. The strategies are focused on action planning for the execution of the philosophy, mission, vision, and your why. And you've seen this come up a couple times, but I referenced the resource, a great book. And Jimmy, you'll probably laugh. Pete, you might laugh when you see it too. Old School Classic, 1997, Successful Coaching by Rainer Martins. If you don't have it, if you haven't taken a look at it, some of the stuff is simplistic and geared towards beginning coaches. But I'm a firm believer that it's those basic elements that keep us grounded and keep us effective. So I highly recommend checking it out. Again, Successful Coaching, Rainer Martins, 1997. Before we get into athletics, right? So to paint a picture for everybody, we had our goal, we had our mission, our vision, our philosophy, and now we're working our way down to these guiding principles. So I'll use the example of Empower Adventures. And no, we're not a sports team, but we are a team, and we do have a mission, and it's to empower individuals and groups or teams through adventure experiences, which is great. For us, the next layer down, again, this doesn't get into the very specific actions or tactics, but these 3 guiding principles, we feel like, and actually we know over the years of doing this, if we execute those 3 guiding principles on a daily basis, we made progress towards achieving our mission of empowering individuals and teams through adventure. Our guiding principles, 100% safe 100% of the time. Awesome. Safety is important. Guiding principle number 2, exceptional customer services. Guiding principle number 3, engaging, empathetic, and compassionate guides or facilitators. So what we've done there is we've created our strategy. If we're safe, if we are exceptional in our customer services, if we're engaging, empathetic, and compassionate as employees, we are living our mission on a daily basis. Now, the execution of your vision starts with this strategic plan. All right. And as you all, I'm sure, know, a plan is only as effective as how well you communicate said plan. So these guiding principles are going to drive your strategic plan. However, if you do not effectively communicate that to all program stakeholders, again, coaching staff, athletes, parents or guardians of the athletes, any school administration or teachers that are connected to your program, whatever it might be. And some strategies for effectively communicating your strategic plan to those stakeholders: be clear, state them clearly, state them directly, include why. People understand things so much better when they are provided a why. It's important to show up a couple minutes early because it's important for a parent to let the coaches coach because you can go on and on and on with that list. And again, referencing this Successful Coaches book or coaching book, two ideas, or the one idea that they had is an athlete or a family team notebook. We've done something similar with some of our adventure programs. If we have a team coming out to our facility for 12 hours or even 24 hours, one of the first things I do before the event is I build out a program binder. And that program binder shows the athletes exactly what we're going to be doing, why we're going to be doing it. It provides some front loading with, hey, if you can do X, Y, and Z, it's going to minimize the amount of challenge in each of the events that we're going to, that make up the program. I'll throw some quotes in there. I'll throw some worksheets or resources in there. But it's essentially a one-stop shop for what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to try to accomplish it. Another method of communicating your strategic plan to the programming stakeholders or the program stakeholders is a program full value contract. We'll get into this. I'll have an example for you later on in the event. A full value contract comes from adventure education, experiential education, where essentially it's a facilitated experience between the leader, so the coach in this instance, and it could be for your coaching staff. It could be something that you do. It could be an exercise you do with just your athletes. It could be an exercise that you do with just the parents, guardians of your athletes. Essentially, a full value contract is a creative way to do exactly what we just talked about, to share, hey, what your goal for the season or what your goal for the program is. What is it going to take for us to achieve said goal? And what are some of the things that are going to hold us back from achievement of the goal? All right, I'm going to put you in a breakout room together. In the breakout room, anybody that's able to do this, I know some people are on the road, I'll give you like 5 to 8 minutes. All right, well, I'll check in too. I want this to be a participant guided activity right here. But as a group of people, minus me, in the breakout room, and you can make up some make-believe sport program, or you can use one of yours, all right, for reference. Work together to identify your mission for your program, and then identify 3 to 5 guiding principles. Keeping in mind, we're talking strategies. We're not talking specific small actions. We're talking some global strategies, similar to what I shared with you regarding Empower. Ronnie, I like the Giants hat, by the way. I just saw that. Well done. So we're going to go identify your mission for your example program, and then identify 3 to 5 guiding principles that you feel will be important in or essential in your ability to achieve the mission for your program. Do y'all have any questions before I send you into the breakout room? And you could write it down. You can put it on a Google Doc, whatever you want to do. But we'll work off of that for the remaining portion of the event here. All right. Breakout room is open. If you're able to join, go right ahead. If not, you're stuck out here with me for the next 5 to 8 minutes. Here we go. All right, everybody's back. How'd we do? I'm going to stop the share here.
Well, we had a conversation.
Oh, let's hear like 3 highlights from the conversation. Doesn't need to be you, Miss Riley, either. It could be anybody.
Well, we agreed on a couple things. We agreed that it's not all about just your sports skill development.
Awesome. All right, that's a start. Was there it sounds like there was disagreement too. Is that a fair assessment?
No.
Okay. No, I don't think so. I think we all kind of said creating a positive environment, whether, through teaching teamwork. I kind of said that, my goal is to teach teamwork for not just in a sports environment, but, you're going to have to work as a team in your job or, in school all the way through. So just kind of highlighting that but also, using sport as a way to increase physical activity and hopefully kids are getting something out of it in that respect too. Especially, over the last year, we've learned how, kids are staying inside so much that, getting them out and getting physically active. As Dan, you and I go back 20 years on this philosophy, physical education of just, the lifespan physical activity being a positive thing. So that was kind of, but there was, a bunch of other good things came out, like winning at the game of life too. I think Ronnie said that, making sure, it's not just about sports, it's about academics and everything else in your program. So.
Right.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add on to that? Thank you for the description of the secret breakout room meeting. Nice job.
Dan, can I just add something real quick? I apologize. I was driving, so I couldn't make it into the breakout room. But just another thing I would add on to when you said about the 1,000-mile like look-in or whatever, the big thing we look at is retention, because I think that's what defines the success of the program. Because, we say to our kids all the time, you can't guarantee wins and losses over the next 4 years. But if we lose 4 years in a row and we've still got the same squad that we started with from a retention standpoint, then I think we're doing other stuff right. Whether it's in the academics, it's in the community, it's right by the kids, like you said, because I can't guarantee win and losses. So, but I think if the kids are still there after 4 years, whether we've been good or not good, then I think we're running a good program. And I think that's more important than anything at this stage.
Awesome. Yeah, no, 100% correct. And just so Laura's up down at the University of New Haven, women's soccer coach. She's been, super helpful with us over the past, one of my first, I think you might have been my second guest on a podcast. She's did a webinar recently for helping high school athletes transition to the college level. So Laura, I appreciate your insight, obviously. And I think everybody, Sharon, Ronnie, and Pete just touched on it. Like, if it's not fun, retention is, not really something that is probably going to be a strong number for you. Right. And if I know wins leads to fun, right. That's part of it. It's nice to win. But there's other ways to, build a culture where even when you fall short, and I think Laura, you and I had this conversation about a program a couple of years ago that struggled immensely. Yet when you talk to the alums, they spoke glowingly about the experience with the current athletes that you have. So, so when you get into culture building, it helps athletes realize that, hey, I don't know, you're not going to remember necessarily your win-loss record in your sophomore year of, track and field, right? But you're going to remember some of the bonds that you created or a lesson that the coach taught you that you still carry with you to this day as an adult. So, appreciate the report out there. I'll bring back the screen share. All right, we're on the home stretch. We got about 15 minutes left. So the last step to our big to small approach are the tactics, right? So action, putting the rubber to the road. It's great when you could say 100% safe 100% of the time in an adventure environment. But if we don't take the next step to identify what actions lead to safety, those are just words on paper. It's just lip service. One of the things Jimmy asked me about when you were in the breakout room, he's like, is this an exercise that you do with your staff at Empower? And it is. Every year, we're a seasonal operation, right? So our staff dynamic changes every year. So we have to do things like this regularly. But every year after our new guide training, we would do a team bonding event. Everybody would get to know each other a little bit. And then we would do our first kickoff meeting for the year. And one of the exercises I would do as part of the kickoff meeting is I would say, hey, again, everybody knows our goal is to inspire and empower people through adventure. All right. These are our 3 guiding principles. And I would pull out three separate poster boards. Poster board 1 would be the 100% safe 100% of the time. Poster board 2 would be the exceptional customer services. Poster board 3 would be the, enthusiastic, compassionate guides, facilitators. I would then give each person a pen and a stack of sticky notes, and they would do this independently. I would give them like 15 minutes to think of as many actions that they could possibly think of that represent either one of those guiding principles. And when the exercise was over, everybody went up and put their sticky notes on the appropriate guiding principle board. And then at the end of the meeting, I would collect all that stuff. The next day at work, I would then take all their responses. I would massage them. If there were some if John and Sean said like pretty close to the same thing, I might combine them. I might add some things to it that were maybe not brought up during the meeting. But essentially, I would turn that into our team contract for the season, right? So we know what we're trying to accomplish. We now know what our strategies are, all right? And then the final step is, what are the actions? I got an internet unstable. Are you still hearing me? Are we still good here? All right. What are the actions that are going to allow us to implement the strategies? Tangible, right? So these actions are tangible, and it sets us up to be accountable, both self-accountability and holding one another accountable. So again, I was going to send everybody in the breakout room, but I don't think we need to for this next slide right here. But again, the success actions are those tangible actions that lead, as coaches, will lead us to opportunities to both evaluate how effective we are in our strategy and in our philosophy, right? Because a philosophy sounds great if there's no actions associated to it, and you can never really say, hey, this is working or it's not, right? It's great. That stuff looks awesome on paper. Everybody gets that warm, fuzzy feeling inside when you talk about being a great teammate or a great leader or a great parent in a program. Well, really, until they know the specific actions that define what it means to be a great team member, what it means to be a great teammate, what it means to be a parent, guardian, or a supporter of the program, what does it mean to be a great member of the coaching staff? So these are some categories in mind. Once you have your philosophy, which is your mission, your vision, and your mission and vision. Once you have your strategies, once you have your tactics, or before you do your tactics, these are a couple areas that I think coaches could focus on when they're building out their tactics. So you have your off-season, preseason, or in-season theme, right? And again, it sounds kind of corny, but think about it. If you can create some sort of theme and build your tangible actions around that theme, it's more likely to get some buy-in from the program stakeholders, because it's not just one person kind of point, hey, we need to do this during the season because I said so. It makes it a little bit more fun. It makes it a little bit more engaging. I think it was, it was Fairfield University women's soccer. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I worked with their program, and their theme for the season, I'm going to butcher it, but you'll get the premise, was chop wood, carry water. And it was a short book that they read, that they had to read during the off season. And their theme throughout the entire season was focus on chop wood, carry water, focus on the little details that we can control, and the result will take care of itself. And we built that into our adventure program with them. More importantly, that was built into everything they did over the course of the season, whether it was reading passages and reflection or specific actions, all were under that umbrella of chop wood, carry water. Same thing, your success actions, the daily routines and rituals, right? What sort of, how do you start practice? How do you start a game? Or the pregame type stuff. How do you end practice? There's actions that you can implement that will clarify yes or no, right? We're executing our strategies. If we're executing our strategies, we're making progress towards achieving our mission for the program. Again, down the list right here, celebrating the stakeholder accountability. Again, anybody involved in sport knows that there are some parents that are nothing but headaches. And then there are some parents that, hey, your program wouldn't be the same without those parents or supporters, right? How do you celebrate those things? Create some actions to say, hey, if we have supporters of our program executing these actions throughout the season, let's make sure that we celebrate them. So another category to be considerate of. Same thing with alums and alumni involvement. Program evaluations, right? Sometimes as coaches or as leaders in general, we think, oh man, everything is great, right? Everybody's buying in. You might have one conversation with an athlete, be like, hey coach, we're not really buying in. We're trying to, humor you right now, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain this over the long haul. So if you have these tangible, specific actions, it allows you to effectively evaluate your program. Most importantly, it allows you to define what it means to be a great team member, great teammate, great program supporter, and a great coach. And then the quote I threw down there is, you get what you inspect. Again, if you go through all these exercises and you have this great mission, vision, you have these great strategies, you have these great success items that you think will work, and then if you don't do anything with it, you just wasted hours of your time putting all this stuff together. So when I talked about like the routines and rituals, if you have, an action for being a great teammate, which is, helping somebody out when they're struggling. I'm going with something very generic right here. And if you witness that as a coach, like on the way out to practice, and you don't say anything about it at some point before or after practice, when you have everybody's attention, you missed out on a huge opportunity. And the likelihood of someone doing that kind gesture again just plummeted, just was flushed down the toilet. So make sure once you take the time to go through these exercises, the more you inspect, the more you celebrate when the standards are being met, the success actions are being met, the more you provide coaching and feedback for when the standards aren't met, the more likely you are to receive more buy-in from all of your program stakeholders. I'm going to stop the share momentarily, and we have a few minutes left right here. So I'm going to share an example of a couple items right here. Again, don't judge me on the art right here, but this is an example of a full value contract. I usually do it hand drawn on a sheet of paper, but this is one that I've used for this football team that I work with every year at the start of their off-season program in the summer. Essentially, I draw a big football field on a poster board with the 10-yard markers, and you have your two end zones, etc. And in one end zone, I write down in this instance, it's related to the 24-hour program that I have them for. But for a coach, it would be, hey, what are you going to write down there? You're going to write down your season goals. You're going to facilitate a discussion with your athletes and your coaches, and maybe even your program stakeholders, your parents, guardians, to have them come up with 10 first down actions, right? So if we do these 10 things every day, we're making progress towards achieving our goal for the season or living out the mission of our program. Get those things, write them down. Second layer to it is you're going to facilitate a discussion with your stakeholders to identify, again, I put five 5-yard penalties. Now, again, football related, 1 5-yard penalty is not necessarily going to kill you over the course of a football season. But if they compile, if those little withdrawals or those little negative things pile up, those 5-yard penalties become backbreakers. So again, get them to come up with the answers through a facilitated conversation, write them down. Finally, facilitate a discussion with their stakeholders to identify 3 major penalties, 15-yard penalties, right? Those do hurt. One of those hurts, multiple even hurt more. So again, this is an example of a full value contract. I related it to football because that was the group I was working with, but you can do this with any sort of sport. You can do it with track and field when you have different distances of races. You can do it. Laura, you might have to explain how to do it with soccer, but I just wanted to provide that to you. Most importantly, to get the accountability, to get the buy-in, facilitate the conversation so your stakeholders feel like they are coming up with all of the information, but in reality, you're asking good questions, you're guiding the conversation so they come up with the answers that you know are right for your program. Have them sign it afterwards, right? You put a signature on, and you could talk about that, what a signature means, right? What a commitment means. But then don't roll it up and throw it in the back of your car and say, oh, that's great. I'll use it when I need something down the road. Make it visible. Put it in your locker room. Make it part of each workout, practice, and competition. Hey, remember, if we focus on these 10 pluses and minimize these negatives, we're giving ourselves the best shot. When we do, how do we maintain those positive actions, right? How do we bring it to our next competition or our next practice? When we don't, when we fall short, what can we do to get better next time? So an example of a full value contract that I've used in the past with groups. Again, I'm not the most creative individual. I'm sure some of you can come up with better. But that was something I wanted to share with you. The other thing I wanted to share with you here, and again, these are resources that I'll be sharing with everybody after the event. We just went from this very global, right? So these big goals, smaller strategies, tight actions, an acronym and a model that we really use at Empower in all facets of our business is GRIP, and it stands for goal clarity, role clarity, interactions defined, and process defined. And as I was getting mentally ready for this event right here, I was thinking this GRIP model can apply to the coaching staff, right? So if you have a coaching staff, right, what are we trying to accomplish as a staff? Make sure it's clear, make sure it's measurable, make sure everybody understands exactly what it is. How are we each, right, as our team, how are we each going to contribute to our ability to achieve our goal, right? So you get into, hey, coach so-and-so, you're going to be responsible for X, Y, and Z. Coach so-and-so, you're going to be responsible for X, Y, and Z as well. And then get into the communication piece, right? So how are we going to effectively communicate? How are we going to know we're effectively communicate? What are potential barriers to effective communication? Get all that stuff listed. And then the last step is the specific actions of the process, right? So then you start to get into those dialed in small nitty gritty details that will, again, set you and your program up for the best possible chance to achieve what it is that you set out to achieve. I have another document that's similar, just a little bit of a different format that, again, I'll share with everybody. If you'd like, I'm going to put in the chat my email address if you don't have it already. But if you'd like access to that folder, again, it'll include the slide deck and a couple worksheets. Just shoot me an email at some point, tonight or tomorrow, and I'll get it over to you. But especially, I think that GRIP one, again, this is something we use as part of our operation on a day-to-day, whether it be just getting through a regular old Saturday, at the shop, or, getting through a huge event. It really allows us to refocus all of our attention on, again, I throw the phrase around, control the controllables. That's something that we value. This exercise, this GRIP model, is really allows us to hone in on the controllable actions that are going to set us up for the best chance of success. And at the end of the day, as a coach, as a leader in a sports program, like I said in the beginning, the result is never guaranteed. All right. What a coach, what a program, what the athletes can guarantee is their effort, their preparation, how they treat each other, how they communicate with each other, how often they buy, or how well they buy into what it is that you're trying to coach them up on. And at the end of the day, that's what they can control. And then it comes down to how good's the other team and how good are our athletes. But if you start worrying about all that other stuff, it trips you up on the process and puts out a product that is less than what your program actually can be. So it is 7:59. I'll take any questions or comments that you have now before I wrap things up. But I can't thank you enough for coming out here tonight. Again, if you shoot me an email, I'll get those resources over to you as soon as I receive the email. And like I said, I'll be posting audio with the slides of tonight's workshop on our website, and I'll email everybody that sends me a tester here once that's up and live as well. But thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it.